Okay, how do I follow all these three presentations and make it interesting for you? And when I was told I was going to kind of end and summarize some of these things, I took a PowerPoint with me thinking, well, they're not going to touch all of these PowerPoint slides that I brought with me, are they? And I said, yeah, they did. But anyways, thank you, Matt and Anne-Marie, for putting this together, and thank you, Stephanie and Chris, for your presentations. And Karen, of course, Karen, I know what she always says because she's telling me all the time what to do anyway. So, but let me just share with you a few historical pieces about the establishment of the Michigan Office for New Americans. It was in January of 2014 in which Governor Snyder announced in his state address that he was going to form this new office, because he really felt and understood the importance that immigrants have made in terms of contributions to making our state as strong as it is, and also our nation as strong as it is. And he wanted to make sure that the immigrants and immigration issues is not just handled piecemeal by different bipartisan agencies within the state of Michigan. And so he asked me to kind of lead this effort. And when I met with him, it was on January 9, 2014 in his office. I remember the date. I remember the date because I told him, and I forgot to take this article with me, I said to him, I showed him the front page of the Grand Rapids Press of January 9, 1960. So January 9 is an important date in my life. January 9 was, in 1960, was when we arrived in the United States, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, as immigrants. I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia. Our family fled Indonesia in 1954. When communism took over, we ended up in the Netherlands, although that was not my parents' original end destination, because they wanted to live in Suriname, which is another Dutch colony in the northern part of South America. But while we were waiting for a ship in the Netherlands, one of his professors from a college that he attended in Indonesia met with him and said, look, we have job openings here for teachers. And so if you would like to stay in the Netherlands, we can find you a job as a teacher here in the Dutch school system, which he accepted, and then we stayed in the Netherlands for about 5.5 years. And then there was such an influx of Indonesian political refugees fleeing Indonesia because of the communism that was taking over the country, and because of the familiarity of the Dutch culture, the Indonesian refugees were all fleeing to the Netherlands, to the point where Queen Juliana in the late 1950s asked President Eisenhower for special immigration quotas for Indonesian political refugees to be able to be accepted to the United States. Our family was fortunate enough to be accepted under that program. We were sponsored by a Christian Reformed church in Grand Rapids, and so we ended up in Grand Rapids. That's my little short history, and so I've been living in Grand Rapids since 1960. Currently, I'm married. I have 5 children, 16 grandchildren, and a patient wife for 48 years. So, so that's the story about immigration. Because I think one of the things that I think what Governor Snyder wanted to do was to make sure that the state of Michigan looked at immigration and immigrants as an asset, as a part of the puzzle of creating a strong economy, but not only a strong economy, because Governor Snyder also understood the importance of having a strong, diverse culture. And that is what immigration and immigrants have also brought to our state and to our nation. But sitting in his office in January 9, 2017, I said, well, Governor Snyder, what is it that I should look at in terms of the need for the state of Michigan as it pertains to immigration, and how to use immigrants as a valuable tool for our economic growth? And he said to me, well, that's why I hired you. Because immigration is such a big topic, isn't it? It covers so many different things. So with working with Karen, we kind of sat down and said, well, what are we going to do with this that kind of allows us to focus on things that we can do, that we can impact, rather than having to always fight about what's coming down from Washington, D.C., about some of the crazy policies that they create. that this doesn't help anyone. So we settled on 3 areas. So our office is focusing on talent. And you can see by the presentations today how important talent will be in the future for our state's economy. And that means for the future of the quality of life for every one of us. And talents, we realize as we continued our work within the Michigan Office for New Americans, we began to realize that amongst the refugees that are coming in and also the immigrants, we realized that there was a talent pool there of people who had foreign education, degrees from the foreign universities, work experiences in their home country, and yet, when they arrived here, what were they doing? One of the things that we kind of, it's humorous, but it's not really humorous, is the fact that we keep saying we don't want to have the most educated taxi cab drivers. Right? We don't need engineers to be taxi cab drivers, or doctors to be wait staff. So we began to realize that it was very important for us to challenge the state of Michigan to look at and visit its licensing and certification policies, to make sure that there are no artificial barriers that prevents these educated and skilled individuals to be able to participate in Michigan's growing economy. And I will tell you from a personal experience that that is a really important part of this work. Because you see, when my father arrived here in the United States in 1960, he had several degrees in education, 20 years of teaching experience, and yet he could not teach. He could not teach. He was told to go back to college. And when he was told to go back to college, he said, okay, I'll go back to college. And then when he was hired, he was hired as a 4-year college graduate. It was, and again, he just assumed that that is the rules and you have to live with the rules and all those kinds of things. The problem with that, of course, is that what we've lost, because bragging about my dad, which I always do, I have students of his coming to me today saying how great my dad was in teaching them skills, not only education, but also social skills. So for 4 years, those students were not able to benefit from that type of skill and experience. So we realized that those are things that we are going to have to work on, and so we're working with the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, and we're working diligently. I think we're working on 44 jobs that we're looking at and saying, what are the requirements, and how do we make sure that they are not, having artificial barriers to the participation of talented immigrants and refugees coming to the United States. I'm using those terms, immigration and refugees, only, and I think we're going to shift it. We're going to try to change the description. We're going to call them New Americans. We're the Office for New Americans. Because oftentimes in our conversation, we kind of mix those two terms, and they're really different groups of people. They come here with different visas and different processes and things like that. What we also have done with our work in understanding the importance of integrating these talented individuals into our economic system is we started a program that we worked with Upwardly Global, a national organization that looks at those individuals with a minimum of a 4-year college degree to help them enter into our economy. So we started a program last year called the Michigan International Talent Solution. It is run by Annie Fenton, our program director, and in our first year we were proud to say that we were able to impact 33 lives who were able to be hired at a minimum, an average starting salary of about $48,000. And this year we received the approval from the state to increase the funding for that so we can add another staff person so we can do more work in that area to make sure that the new Americans who have come into the States are given every opportunity to contribute to our growth within our economy and as well as growing into our enrichment of our cultures. And one of the things that we keep forgetting sometimes is that we talk about immigration as people coming into the state of Michigan from other countries. We're also looking at, Governor Snyder said to us, look, one of the things that we have to remember, which is the second part of our mandate that we're focusing on, is we want immigrants and refugees and new Americans who have already come to the United States, who are living in other states, to look at Michigan as a destination. To look at Michigan, now one of the things that what I talk about when I make presentation is there is no reason why Michigan cannot be the Silicon Valley of the Midwest. There's none. And in fact, we ought to strive for that. We have everything ready and available to us to encourage entrepreneurs to come to the state of Michigan, to build their dreams, to build their businesses, create new jobs and opportunities for every one of us here in the state of Michigan. And the other third area that we are focusing on is entrepreneurship. As others have said, you know, immigrants, new Americans are 2 or 3 times more likely to start their own business than native-born citizens. And I want to emphasize what Karen said. Oftentimes in our conversations, and I'm talking now as an immigrant myself, so oftentimes we talk about these individuals and we put labels on things. So we have high skills and low skills, and like Karen said, we're beginning to start talking about this as individuals with specialized skills, who every one of us is needed to have a growing, sustainable economy. And let me just say this, because sometimes I have to be careful what I say. Although it's not my career anyways, maybe I don't need to be careful about what I say. But you know how we describe people, how we describe especially those who are in our agricultural economy, is really unfortunate. Really, really unfortunate. Because you see, if you think about this, you know, Karen talks about those who come with degrees and how a degree person in the STEM field, when hired, will create 2.6 new jobs for US-born citizens. And people say, well, how does that happen? Well, you know, when a company, and I own my own company, I was in business all my life. When we hire a person, we hire that person to expand the company, to grow the company. We don't just hire them for hiring's sake. We hire them because they have skills that will help us grow the company. And when you grow the company, guess what? You hire more people. Right. So that's how it happens. So let me share this with you. Those unauthorized individuals who work in our agricultural economy, we know that those individuals who harvest the crops that most Americans don't want to harvest create up to 3 jobs for Americans. And people say, well, come on, how does that work? Well, because they're willing to go in the fields and harvest and do the back-breaking work, that product has to be transported, which means it has to be driven by a truck, which means you have to be a citizen to have a driver's license, a commercial driver's license to drive the truck. It goes to a food processing plant. Right? More employees over there. Most likely they are going to be people that are, authorized to work in our state or in the country. Out of the food processing plant, it goes to restaurants and to grocery stores for one thing. Guess what? Somebody has to stock the produce department. And most likely, those are children of US-born individuals. So even the way we talk sometimes in derogatory terms about these individuals, they are creating jobs for US-born people. Somewhere along the line, folks, we gotta stop looking at people with labels. And that's part of what the governor says about we have to create a welcoming culture. We cannot and we must not allow for the kind of legislation, resolutions, policies that come not only out of Lansing, but out of Washington, D.C. It just cannot happen. As an immigrant myself, I sit up here and sometimes I listen to these things and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I probably wouldn't even be standing in front of you if I was living in this day and age and trying to get out of Indonesia. We are, what, 90% Muslim country. We, you and I, we need to recognize the value, the valuable contributions that new Americans make and contribute to the growth, the quality of life that every one of us are experiencing. And if we can't realize that we cannot live without all of us being together on these things, we're all going to suffer independently. We can't. And Governor Snyder, to his credit, I will tell you, I didn't know him that well. I met him a couple of times on the campaign trail, and when his office called me to meet with him on this matter, I'm thinking, wow, a Republican? Yeah. But you know what? Like you and I, we can be Republicans and Democrats. But first and foremost, we're human beings. And that's who we are talking about. Thank you.